Hey everybody, I am going live this morning. I just did a phenomenal media training this morning, and so I wanted to share some very basic rules for interviews because I was getting people prepped for all of the media that they're going to get in 2018, and I thought I would share them with you. So here we go. So as you know, I mean, the different media outlets and where you are going to be, can change just a little bit. So print obviously is really, really different from radio, which is different from television. But there are four basic things that you should have for any media interview. And that's one, you should be developing key messages. So your key messages are really the critical messages that you want to communicate during an interview. Always remembering that you want to keep the value first, but key messages are what you want the audience to walk away with. So you have to be very specific on controlling that part of the conversation so that after the media interview, the audience is walking away with what you want them to know about you as an author, as an expert, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a champion or an advocate, whatever that may be. And you should know that going into the interview. And yes, key messaging can change depending on, why you're on. So, every business doesn't do just one thing. So you can have different key messages. And so you may have to tweak them, but you should have at least three going into any interview. The other thing is that you want to think about like responses to obvious questions. So a lot of the people that I work with, a lot of my clients are authors. And one of the favorite questions that most reporters have for an author is, why did you write this book? So you should already kind of know like what that response is going to be. Unfortunately, you want to seem natural when you're doing an interview, but you also still want to control that conversation, and that takes practice. Sounding natural and being natural, even though you've practiced for a certain number of hours how you're going to respond to a question, is a skill. And so don't think that you have to just show up and wing it because that's what everybody else seems like they're doing. They're not. They get media training so that they're prepared. So you want to practice what some of these responses will be. And think of questions that you may not, that may be off the wall. Think of controversial questions that might make you uncomfortable. Have somebody just interview you. Have a friend come over and just ask you questions and practice responding. You want to get into, it's a skill, and you want to get into the habit of developing that. The other thing is not to be afraid of journalists. Don't be afraid of us. Some people have a certain reputation and you should know that going in. Some people like to be controversial. Some journalists like to be controversial. Some journalists like to ask the hard questions. So you can't think always that a journal is going to kind of softball things for you. Our job is to ask the questions that, our audience wants to know. And even if somebody says, don't ask the question, we're probably going to ask it anyway. I've been hung up on by some of the biggest people. Jennifer Lopez has hung up on me twice because I asked a question her camp told me not to ask. But it is my job to be the voice of our audience. And so if my audience wants to know, I'm going to ask the question. So, that's a little bit of a different situation when it's a celebrity interview. But even with your business, if something is in the news that, it may have a negative impact on your business or your discussion, you may be asked to respond just to see what you would say. So that's another thing, right? The other thing is that you don't always have to answer a question like right away. Sometimes people will try to answer a question because they want to seem responsive before the journalist even finishes asking the question. You don't have to do that. You can take a minute and pause. You can take a breath and kind of think through it and then give a very thoughtful response. Certainly you don't want to have a minute of dead air, while you think about your answer, but it's okay to take a breath and center yourself and give the best answer. I think that when people try to answer the question before the question is even asked, that you really don't get the full weight of what the question is, and then you sometimes just seem like you're rambling. So you definitely want to take a breath and then answer. And then the other thing is you want to do your research on the audience. right? So before you go on the media outlet, you want to make sure you know who the audience is so that you're speaking that audience's language. So if the audience is, a bunch of male sports fans, that may change how you want to respond to the question. If they're a bunch of, 17 to 25-year-olds, because it happens to be a top 40 or a hip hop station, you might want to change your answer a little bit. So you want to know the response. The most important thing is that this really is an opportunity for you to get your message to potential clients, potential sponsors, potential event organizers. This is really your chance to get your message out to the world. And so you want to make sure that you plan appropriately for that. And I also have for you, I also have some more tips on how to knock, a media interview out of the park for free. And so if you like that, just comment me in the comment box and I will send that directly to you. So if you want more tips on how to really shine during a media interview, I got you, because that's what I do. So just comment me in the comment box, and of course like and share and any other comments that you might have. I am more than happy to receive, but definitely trying to get the information out so we can take it up a level in 2018. Have a great day.